Although nothing has been confirmed yet, it is pretty much inevitable that at some point Funimation will obtain the rights to Dragon Ball Super and produce their English dub and release it in North America as well as Australia and other parts of the world that follow the Funimation dub. But as of right now, nothing's been confirmed. The word around the campfire, though, is that Toei is the company holding back on the deal. And the reason why they're holding back is because they want to get a secured TV deal. They want Dragon Ball Super to be guaranteed to be on television. And that's why we have not gotten the dub yet. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Dragon Ball Super on TV, how it should air, when it should air, and how we think it'll air. And joining me, of course, is a man who really needs no introduction, the perfect person to talk to about this. Please welcome the Titan of Toonami, a man who needs no introduction, Blackenfist. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine today, Geekdom. I'm glad to break down this topic for you, for all the curious fans out there.
All the beautiful friends from around
All
the
the
world.
beautiful friends out there.
Yes, and a lot of these beautiful friends got into Dragon Ball through Toonami, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about here. So, it's 2015. Dragon Ball Z aired on Toonami in 1998, 1999, and then onward. Now, but the world is a different place, Black and Fist. Different place
Yes,
now.
it is.
Yeah, now we have the internet. Now we have more competition on television. Anime is now simulcasted. As far as what we know, there's no official announcement from Toei of any simulcast for Dragon Ball Super. Not in our country, not in Latin America, anywhere. So, my question to you is this. Ideally, where should Dragon Ball Super air? And before you answer the question, I'm just going to say this to preface it. In recent years, things have kind of changed because those of you know that Dragon Ball Kai, or Dragon Ball Z Kai in the States, aired on Nickelodeon in a heavily edited version. And then, of course, there's the Toonami block, which is actually on Saturday nights. Of course, Saturday nights is not a good time slot, especially for young adults. Saturday nights is usually a very bad time slot for a television show. People are out, they're watching SNL, they're, on dates. It's just not a good time. So, but there is no afternoon Toonami block. So my question to you is, like, how would you strategically put Dragon Ball Super on television?
Well, obviously, I mean, the most obvious block is probably the Toonami block, but the problem with the Toonami block is just exactly what you said. It's a Saturday night block. Might not be the perfect fit for it. I mean, there's also, it could be very possible that it could go back to Nicktoons, since Nicktoons aired a lot of the Dragon Ball Z movies. It obviously aired Kai, and it aired GT. So obviously Nicktoons was, interested in Dragon Ball content, and there's a very good possibility that if it does come to the States, it probably will go to Nicktoons, just like Kai did, because even though it could be possible that it could also go to Toonami, but like once again, the Toonami block isn't exactly the greatest fit for Super. There's of course Cartoon Network as well, but the thing I really wanted to talk about here is there's been a lot of hubbub about why it hasn't come here, and a lot of people say it's because Toei wants a guaranteed network deal.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's pretty much guaranteed that when Dragon Ball Super comes over to the States, whether or not there's already a network deal lined up, it will eventually get on TV. That's almost inevitable, isn't it? So
Agreed.
what I'm trying to say is it shouldn't be too hard to get a network deal for that show. Is it? I mean, or you know, I would imagine that someone like Nicktoons would be right up in line for something like that, since
Absolutely.
they after they stopped airing Kai, they went right into GT because they wanted more material. So I don't understand what's the hold up. If they really wanted to look for a network deal, I don't think it would be too hard to look for one.
I mean, Dragon Ball is such a huge franchise. I mean, as we've talked about many times in our Icons interview and things like that, Dragon Ball Z broke all the records for ratings on Cartoon Network when it first aired, and and we saw how good Resurrection F was at the box office. We saw how successful it was. It's just mind-boggling to me that they haven't been able to secure this deal. And I know that, we don't know what really goes on behind the scenes, but it's just weird because you're right. You would think you would have Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon. I mean, who knows who else trying to bid for this freaking show? And I don't know. Maybe they just are unaware. Maybe they didn't look at the numbers of Resurrection F. It's a very puzzling thing. Now, here's my question to you. With Toonami being on Saturday nights, if you were in charge, would you move it back to the afternoon block? Do you think that there's still a market for afternoon, after school television for young adults, children, and people like that?
Well, let's get one thing straight. Toonami's not going to afternoon and like anytime soon. That's not going to happen. So, I mean, if we're going to go to afternoon, that means is it going to get on Cartoon Network? Pretty much is Dragon Ball, which also could happen. I mean, Dragon Ball Super on Cartoon Network, that could happen. That would probably be another good bet. But and that would probably be the best time slot that you could have for a show like that, because if you really think about it, Dragon Ball Super, we've seen it. There isn't a lot of censoring or cutting they could do to Dragon Ball Super at this point. There isn't anything objectionable in that sense, so they could air this whole thing uncut. That is not going to be an issue like it was with Kai, where they did chop up some things for that, and it did get a Toonami release uncut before that reason, which made sense. Nicktoons had a cut version of the show that aired, and then Toonami got it later uncut. Obviously, there isn't really with Super. It's not like it doesn't have that. It's not that violent. There isn't that many things in it that could be objectionable in that way. So they could air this uncut on afternoon on Cartoon Network, which just means it's kind of redundant to have it on Toonami, because at least with the Toonami broadcast of Kai, it was aired uncut, so there was that purpose of airing it in that in that block for that reason. So yes, I think it could work afternoon, whether it be on Cartoon Network or on Nicktoons, really.
But I just feel like if it's on Nicktoons, they're going to make a lot of unnecessary edits that I don't think, like Mr. Popo being blue, which we even seen Popo in Super yet?
Well, that's the thing. We haven't seen, have we? I don't think we have seen
Mr.
Popo. No, we have not.
Yeah, very strange.
So we don't, I guess we don't have to worry about that blue Popo. I mean, I don't think they'll change Popo in Nicktoons, I think. And I also don't think they're going to change him in Cartoon Network. I think there's a very good chance they're not going to do that. So,
I don't think they will either. Because you're right, we haven't seen him. The thing is that's puzzling me is, well, let me ask you something else before we get to that puzzle. Because you're saying that Toonami's not going back to afternoons.
No, it is not. No, it is not. No,
why? Why? Why is that?
Well, because Toonami. Well, okay, I don't know the specifics. I haven't really, I don't know the details on this, but Toonami is kind of like an Adult Swim thing now.
I've noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a Cartoon Network thing right now. I mean, yes, they're on the same channel, but the reason Toonami's not going back anytime soon to afternoons is because it's an Adult Swim thing now, pretty much. That's what it is.
Okay, do you think that Dragon Ball Super should be promoted to the previous generation that watched Dragon Ball Z on Toonami and grew up with it, or do you think it should be promoted to a brand new generation?
I think that it should I think it should be promoted in both sense. I mean, I think that if Dragon Ball Super comes to the States, regardless, they're going to promote it to a new generation and the old fans, just like especially with Resurrection F. You see the marketing for that. They were obviously promoting that movie for the previous the generation that grew up on it. They obviously were targeting that demographic. It was clear as day. With Dragon Ball Super, I feel they're going to do the same thing. But they're also going to try to get, of course, on board new fans. So
I was going to say, how do you feel about Saturday mornings? I know there's a lot of controversy about Saturday morning cartoons. Do you think that would be a good time slot?
No,
for Super
I don't.
In our
I don't
country?
think. I don't think that Super's going to is probably not going to air on Saturday mornings. Probably not, and I don't think it's a good idea either, because it's Saturday mornings. You're going to cut out a lot of your viewer base. Like I said, a lot of the viewers of Dragon Ball Super are going to be the older fans, and I think that if you're on Saturday morning, I think you might cut your some of your fans out. So I think that probably an afternoon slot is probably where it's going to air, regardless on what channel it airs on.
How do you feel in this country about like a prime time slot on like a Wednesday or like a Tuesday? Because Bob's Burgers, Mike Tyson's Mysteries and Bob's Burgers air on those kind of slots. How do you feel about that?
Could happen, but it depends on what channel it airs on. You know, this is all depending on where Toonami, I mean, not where Dragon Ball Super is going to go. You know, so if you know, I don't know the landscape of these channels that much, but if there's nothing else there, they got nothing else, and they got Super, they probably will promote the hell out of it. My guess is that if it goes on Nicktoons, just because Nicktoons did have Kai before, probably it's going to air on prime time if it goes to Nicktoons. I don't know about Cartoon Network because Cartoon Network hasn't had like Dragon Ball really on there for a couple years now, really.
Yeah,
And I am treating Cartoon Network a little differently from Adult Swim, which currently I think is airing Kai. So
well, yeah, well, it's the same. It's the same network. It's just
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's the
block.
same. It's the same people. Yeah, it's the same people. But the thing is, Cartoon Network has a whole bunch of other shows. I mean, Nicktoons obviously too, but they have a whole bunch of other shows, and who knows what their agenda is? Maybe they don't want to promote Super over one of their shows. You know what I mean? So you know, we don't know the agenda there. So.
Okay, well, one last question for you before we get out of here. How are your feelings on Dragon Ball Super possibly airing on a Netflix or a streaming type service? Not Funimation's, but a one that's a little bit bigger. Because Hulu's already got Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I don't think that's what Toei wants, though.
No, I don't think that's going to happen because, I mean, like from what everyone's saying, Toei's holding up for a television deal. But at the same time, it kind of puzzles me because if I think about it, I mean, Nickelodeon should be very open to having this thing on TV. I'm pretty sure Cartoon Network would be open to having this thing on TV. I think it would be a pretty hot property to have. So I don't know why it's taking them so long to get that deal. Who knows? Maybe it's just the way they do business and it just takes forever. But as for a streaming service, I mean, obviously that. I mean, yeah, I think that would reach a lot of people, but maybe it's just the novelty. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's the novelty of actually having something air on TV. But I feel like they're not gonna. They're gonna want this to air on TV, not just have it as a streaming service, having streamed over a service or something like that.
Well, I know I certainly speak for Blackenfist and for many others in the community in that we all kind of anxiously await what's going to happen with this thing. To me, it's inevitable that we get an English dub. We're going to get one, I'm pretty sure. Yes. Toei might be very good at not taking full advantage of the situation, but they're definitely not very good at losing money. In other words, they're very good at making money. So we're going to get it one way or another.
No one wants to lose money.
Exactly, especially not you and I, because we're Latinos and we already are climbing our way up.
Well, one thing that we say that, but I almost have to ask is them taking a long time to get Super over here, isn't that costing them money? I mean, I have to ask.
I think it is. It is. I think it is, but also when you think about it, Resurrection F did just come out, so maybe they want to get that Buu saga of Kai done first and then jump to Super. That way when they retell these stories, it's not so jarring for the American audience. You know? Because maybe dude, think about it. We talked about this before. They might get turned off by the fact that it's the same story being told again. It's very possible.
It could be.
K17 got turned off, and he's the biggest fan ever, so it's scary.
Yeah.
Everybody check out Blackenfist channel. I'll put in the description down below. And, of course, leave me your comments. If you live in this country, if you're outside the country, I mean, I still want to hear from you, but you obviously have a different perspective. If you're from the United States or Canada, when do you think is the ideal time slot to air Dragon Ball Super? Let me know in the comments section. I'll catch you down the road. I'll see you down there. Bye.